Good day, everyone, or good evening, depending on where you are and what time you're watching this. Welcome back to the channel, and today we're going to continue with the Bible Contradiction series. Before we get that, find me as usual on Facebook, YouTube, One Way, and on BitChute. So we're going to continue with the Bible Contradiction series, and today we are on question 18, although if those of you that will remember, so let's go to the source. For those of you who will remember, here we are. When did Ahaziah begin to reign? We are always one ahead, because in their brilliant work of scholarship, they basically repeated a question. The same question was asked twice, so we ignored it, and therefore we are now one ahead. This one, this question basically asserts that there is a discrepancy of when Ahaziah began to reign. In these particular passages, it says that it's got a contradictory story. Now, ladies and gentlemen, to refresh, because it's been a while, let's go to the Bible itself to see what it says itself, what the Bible is for. Scripture, inspiration of God, profitable for doctrine, for reproof, for correction, for instruction in righteousness, and so on and so forth. Right. Therefore, that is what the Bible is there for. And so essentially, if one wants to jump up and down about contradictions within the Bible, for it to be of any relevance and meaningfulness, it basically has to affect or impede this the ability to do what is to saying the Bible is for in Timothy. So if there is a contradiction, it's only of any significance whatsoever if it actually affects the essence of the message, the essence of what the Bible is for, and so on and so forth. And for any Christian that has ever looked into the Bible translations and the history and all that kind of stuff, will know that the affirmation is that the Bible is been preserved infallibly in essence and all of that sort of thing. And one of the means by which it was preserved was the fact that there was no one central authority at all. So the copies were made by all different types of people, no central authority, and the essence of the Bible is preserved by having so many different translations and things like that. And even though there are varieties within the different manuscripts and texts and stuff like that, of which there are absolute thousands, we recognize that the essence and the truth is preserved within this whole body, so that transmitted down in time, we can then find the essence and everything that we need in there, and that the original message and the original essence was preserved. And there's always an ongoing work to make sure that we understand to the best of our abilities there and so forth. So generally speaking, when atheists want to point out contradictions in the Bible, they're doing this usually out of a straw man sort of thing. And it's a straw man in a sense, because a lot of Christians will basically want to say, when they talk about infallibility and perfection and all these kinds of things, they're not talking in a sense, first of all, they're talking out of ignorance generally, because a lot of Christians don't know, and they don't understand generally what the situation is with all the different original manuscripts and all that kind of stuff. And they basically believe that it's their assertion that everything is exactly that. There's no discrepancies, there's none of these things and stuff like that. And so generally the straw man argument is against, when it comes to Bible contradictions, is given because many Christians give a straw man ignorant assertion of what the real nature of the situation of the Bible actually is. And so that's generally where a lot of these things come out. So in order for us to be concerned about a contradiction, the contradiction, first of all, we have to discover whether there is a contradiction or not, and second of all, whether that contradiction actually affects the essence or the teaching or any one of the long held traditions and doctrines and stuff like that, where we have, if it is a slight contradiction in an irrelevant detail, well then it's meaningless and and then the atheist is being pedantic and is also then arguing out of ignorance because they don't understand the proper Christian position, and also because they think that by pointing out a completely pointless contradiction that they've actually said anything of substance and that we should then be concerned. This is obviously not the case. In fact, if they were to apply the same standard to anything they read or hold to believe and believe to be true, even within the sciences, where you get different results for things and different interpretations and stuff like that, if you had to hold anything in all the world to the kind of standard that many atheists want to hold the Bible to, this completely absurd thing, nothing would stand, of course, at all. And nowhere in the Bible does it says that it was given by inspiration and for certain purposes, but nowhere in the Bible does it say that this book is going to be preserved in absolute perfect every little if the original said 3, then that number will be preserved. Someone might have said 4, a person might have said 6, and by inspiration we also declare that it's not a direct dictation. God didn't sit there and dictate directly to people, right? You must write there were 5, or you must write there were 6. The people were under inspiration or writing about their own experiences. So basically, based on their experiences, you will have the varieties in perspective. So if I'm standing over here, I might see 3 of a particular object, but someone who's standing somewhere else might have one of them obscured and might only see 2. And these are the kinds of things that we need to be aware of. Anyway, let's get stuck into it. They believe that the contradiction lies in the following. So when did Ahaziah begin to reign? It says here, first of all, they quote it wrong, right? So if we go to the source, right? When did Ahaziah to be 8:25 and 2 Kings 9:29, right? If we go to the source 25, is it 25? Sorry, it's 20. Yeah, it's 25, so it's correct. Sorry, I was reading, that was my mistake. I was reading the following question, which is actually related, by the way, but we'll do it another time. We'll do that another time. So let's go. So they say in verse 25, in the 12th year of Joram, Ahab, king of Israel, whoops, I've got the wrong screen here, don't I? My apologies. So here it is, right? In the 12th year of Joram, son of Ahab, king of Israel, did Ahaziah, the son of Jehoram, king of Judah, begin to reign. Okay? In the 12th year. And then in 2 Kings 29, in the 11th year of Joram did son of Ahab, began Ahaziah to reign over Judah. Okay? So let's look at these. So the discrepancy is there. 11th year, 12th year. All right. So 12th year, 11th year. Okay, so they believe that this is a contradiction. When did he actually start to reign? Now, I will suggest to you that he began to reign in the 11th year, depending on how you want to reckon it. So the 11th year puts him 1 year earlier than this verse. Okay? So this verse accounts for him reigning a year later, 1 year later than this verse. So there's a discrepancy of 1 year. Right? So Ahaziah, son of Joram, king of Judah, begin to reign. Begin to reign. Okay. Now let's see if there's any other information that can sort this out for us. So this one here puts him 1 year later than the other verse, okay? But if we continue reading on the over here, the next one, right? Over the next one. 22 years old was Ahaziah when he began to reign. And he reigned 1 year in Jerusalem, and his mother name was Athaliah, the daughter of Omri, king of Israel. So ladies and gentlemen, right there within the chapter, you have the answer. There's the 1 year discrepancy. Okay? There's the 1 year discrepancy. So if we include this 1 year prior, where he was, and he reigned 1 year in Jerusalem, right? 11th year began to reign in Judah. Okay, so if we have a look here, whoops. Well, let's do here. We have here. So this is what an ancient one looked like. There's Jerusalem. Jerusalem was in the kingdom of Judah. There's Israel, kingdom of Israel. So there was two different sort of things, just as a matter of interest. Right? So here it says, he reigned 1 year in Jerusalem, 11th year. So what is the discrepancy here, right? They seem to account for something here, right? They seem to account for something here. 1 year in Jerusalem. Now, what a lot of people don't realize is that in those days, in the and this was just a general, it seems to be, as we look at history, it seems to be a general thing that, for example, you see the same thing, right? You see the same thing, and let me point out that misunderstanding one thing leads to one misunderstanding more than misunderstanding one thing leads to a person misunderstanding more than one thing in the Bible, because we see this issue in other similar. For example, there have been other videos, for those of you that are paying attention, there are other videos which when the question was asked, it was basically falling under the same lack of knowledge. It was common for people in those days, in those cultures, in those years, where the first year that a king was sort of first initiated, we called that was generally considered the year of ascension, and wasn't necessarily counted depending on how you want to reckon it. So for example, we still have this in modern times. For example, President Trump was elected to the presidency in 2016, but he only actually began to reign. So he received his election result, he won, and all the ceremony and all the bits and pieces. Now he's the president, but he only really began to crack on with his presidency in full in 2017, right? So depending when in the year this happened. And so it's a similar sort of issue. You have the year of ascension, where the person it's basically the year of transition between two kings. There may have been a sudden, the previous king could have died suddenly. Whatever the case might be, that first year is generally a sort of a year of adjustment, a year of transition, until then they are in full swing proper. So when you are talking about a particular individual's reign, right, you see this happening in other, for example, when they talk about Nebuchadnezzar, there's a similar thing that happens with Nebuchadnezzar, where when they discuss how long Daniel had been there and captive, and when Nebuchadnezzar had been reigned, there's also this 1 year discrepancy, at least apparently, and that depends on how when the author is writing the account, depending on what portion of his reign they're talking about, whether he started bang on exercising his full authority, or whether he was, or at least maybe partially reigning, because you often have the case where in the year of transition there could be almost like a co-reigning, right, as it transitions, where it's being handed over to the next king, and from after 1 year then that one king carries on his own. So it's not actually, if you understand the tradition of the ancient peoples and the way they did these things, and if you look at the context of the verse, what it's trying to deal with, so for example, if we go to here, Joram slept with his fathers, and right, reigned Ahaziah his son reigned in his stead. In the 12th year began, so this is what the year later, 20 years old, and he walked in the way of the house of Ahab, and did evil in the sight of God. So here you see that the writer here is concerned, right, with the narrative about he walked in the way in the house of Ahab. So now it seems he's got completely full swing, that the reason why he's putting it a year later is concerned with when his rulership was completely autonomous. He was now set, he was all full steam ahead on his way in his rulership, and now he had everything that was happening from that point on can be fully accounted to his fault, right? Went against Ahaziah, king of Syria, and so now you can see he's exercising his full authority there. But if you look in the other ones, got a slightly different concern. In the 11th year began to reign, Jehu came to Israel, heard of it, she painted her face. So this is looking here, right? So this is the reason why they reckon these two situations slightly differently is because the context within it calls for a different consideration. So he was already here reigning. This was in his year of transition, and when Jehu and the situation, so Jehu was come to Jezreel, and so Jezebel heard of it, painted her face, So this event took place during his year of transition. Right, so there's a specific issue over here, which is why they're talking about that particular period of time, and over here where it's now talking about what he himself did now that he's in full authority, and he's got the reins, full reins of the state completely under his authority. The year of transition is over in the 12th year after the year of ascension. This is what he starts doing, and then it goes on to tell you then what the issue is, and so on and so forth, right? So there is absolutely no contradiction here. It's consistent with the traditions and things like that of the time, and so on and so forth. There's no contradiction, basically. Now, even if there was, right, even if there was a contradiction, right, let's pretend, for the sake of argument, let's pretend that there was a contradiction. Even if there was a contradiction, would the problem in these two verses affect any doctrine and the essence of Christianity at all? The answer is no. Even if it was a contradiction, it would be completely and utterly irrelevant to the faith entirely. Totally irrelevant. So, ladies and gentlemen, not only would it be completely irrelevant if it was a contradiction, it is not actually a contradiction. It simply completely misunderstands how the system worked in those days, which in fairness is not that far removed from today. We have transition periods even today in monarchies and things like that still exist even today. The same thing still goes on. It's not actually unheard of at all. And it talks about, so when they say begins to reign, there's a semantic range in the word, right? The word can be applied in several different ways, and the word can be applied to a king who is either within his year of ascension, right, or thereafter when he's full on. The word can be applied in all of the situations. So you basically understand this guy was head of state in some sort of capacity, whether arising or carrying on, and or even when relinquishing, right? So even at the point that, because in that year of ascension, it means obviously one was ascending and the other one was descending. One was relinquishing his power. So even the one that's in the process of relinquishing his authority would still be said to have been reigning during that. So you almost have co-regents depending on the situation. I'm not saying that's exactly the situation that's here, but this word that begins to reign, or was reigning, or was in charge, and so on and so forth, has got a semantic range where it can be applied to different circumstances, where the circumstances are slightly differently, but the overall idea is to that it means to give you is that this person is the head of state in some capacity, in and so on and so forth. So, ladies and gentlemen, it's not a contradiction at all, and for those of you again who are paying attention, we will know that ignorance of this particular fact has actually led to Sam Harris and his people to making this mistake already in previous questions, which I have addressed. So, ladies and gentlemen, that was nice and short and sweet. I hope that helps you out, and thank you very much for your viewership. Cheerio.